So regarding this week's chapter of Bleach, chapter 627, I actually initially recorded a live reaction because that's what I normally do. And while I was reading the chapter, honestly, it just really wasn't all that exciting. And for the most part, you just see me going, oh, okay, oh yeah, alright, so I kind of canned that and I just figured I'd do the double review as I promised for the other chapters or whatever. Now, let's go back to 626. For the most part, to be honest with you, these two chapters have kind of been a little bit of slow progression, and at the end of 627, we finally got somewhere or whatever, but definitely I would say that these two chapters were kind of on the more slower side. We had a couple of small events happen here or there, but nothing really, really big or extravagant, to be honest with you, with these past couple chapters of Bleach. I mean, with 626, you got a little bit of cockiness from Grimmjow, trying to be cool, saying, you know, it's not like I want to be on your side, Baka. And I guess the biggest thing we got in 626 was the progression that Baka is finally complete. He absorbed the Soul King. Now, going a little bit into his design real quick, to be honest with you, it is nasty looking, it is creepy, and I have some weird thing, I forget what's the name of it or whatever, where I don't like looking at irregular shapes, and I don't know, it's just something about all those eyes or whatever, it just kind of looks like a weird beehive to me. I know it's weird or whatever, but like, just looking at his design just kind of creeps me out, and I was hoping for something a little bit more badass, and there's still might be more of a transformation to it. Maybe that's just like his base form, so to speak, and then you'll see his final form at some given point. So I was a little bit on the meh side as far as that. Like, yeah, it's gross and creepy, but I was looking more forward to something like badass. Like, yo, Bach is looking sick, and it's just kind of like, dude, stay the fuck away from me with those like million eyes on your face. And it ended with Bach tearing down the Serate. So again, the biggest progression we got in that chapter for the most part was just that Bach is complete, but aside from that, not too much going on in 626, and it was just like a fine, average to fine chapter, maybe like, you know, a 6 out of 10, to be honest with you. It was just like, we got small progression on the villain side with Bach or whatever, and kind of like people being scared or whatnot, but aside from that, it wasn't really too big. Now, 627 was somewhere along the lines of that as well, but we did get some good pieces as far as story goes, even if it wasn't the most exciting and like, oh my gosh, at the very least we got some good stuff regarding some character development and a little bit of progression. For starters, Yukio and Ruruka are staying behind. Thankfully, Fullbringers, we don't need you. Maybe we might get, you know, Tsukishima, that'll be sick, but we don't need you, motherfuckers, stay behind. But the interesting thing about that was it showcased a little bit of how Ichigo has matured, the way he handled the situation, talking to Ruruka. I mean, it was even addressed as well. That was kind of like screaming out character development, and even though they add the shonen humor or whatever, because they always do that, like they always want to keep it so that at the end of the day Ichigo might have matured, but he's still kind of not the smartest motherfucker out there, you know what I'm saying? So they kept that intact as far as for the comedy aspects, but just seeing him grow a little bit more, understanding what needs to be done and who really needs to be protected. And I mean, we're going into the finale is almost here, whatever, so to see that Ichigo has grown quite a bit, that's good stuff. Even if it wasn't the most exciting, even if we had to deal with the Fullbringers, which I think Kubo realized we don't give a fuck about them, so they can stay behind, but at the very least, it helped to showcase yet again, Ichigo has grown. And to be honest with you, with this chapter, mainly 3 things happened. Again, what I had previously just mentioned, Ichigo's character development, good shit there. The Serate has seemingly been completely morphed. Like, it's now, Bach has for the most part completed his goal, and this kind of goes back into the whole discussion of when Aizen was a villain, because to this day we still don't really truly know who Sosuke Aizen really is as far as his goals and whatnot. Well, we kind of understood, but we don't know if it was for good or bad or whatever. But if you look at it, Bach has almost completed everything that he wanted to do. He killed his father, he's become the new Soul King, he basically rebuilt the home for the Quincy and took down the Serate, he defeated Yamamoto, killed Yamamoto. He's done everything he wanted to do. So, to be honest with you, even though I like Aizen a million times more as a villain because he was so cunning, he was always 10 million steps ahead of everybody, he trolled everyone, I love Aizen. At the end of the day, you gotta admit, Bach accomplished more as a villain than Aizen did. Aizen got a little bit far, whatever, but Bach did everything. Bach killed the fucking Soul King and became the Soul King. You can't deny that. That ain't fucking like a bigger accomplishment. And last but not least, after 10 billion years, we finally got some progression as far as they finally reached the Soul Palace, although it's not really the Soul Palace anymore because Bach redecorated it into, you know, the Quincy home or whatever. So we got the progression of that as well. But that was mainly the 3 things that happened. So this chapter, yet again, while I would argue that it had more than the last chapter, because the last chapter just had Bach's transformation, and this one we got character development, progression, and things along that nature. For the most part, just 3 things really happened. So I would argue that while the last chapter was like a average to fine. Maybe this chapter was like a little bit over fine to good. It wasn't the most exciting, but I think character development is really important. I think story progression, even if it was minor and it took a while to get there, is important as well. And Bach as a villain, once again accomplishing more of his goals, is big as well. So again, wasn't the most exciting. Thankfully, we're getting rid of the Fullbringers, those two at the very least. But yeah, for the most part, the second chapter, or the latest chapter, shall I say, this week's chapter, was, I would say, a good. Even though, again, it wasn't extravagant or anything, it was a good. So maybe like a 6.5 to a 7 for this chapter. Let me know what you guys think. First of all, do you feel as though, like, I feel as though the pacing for Bleach for the past few chapters have been kind of slow. We finally got somewhere, whatever, but it did take quite a while. But what do you guys think about that? What do you think about Bach's new form? Yay or nay? Is it gross? Do you feel disappointed with it? And also, how do you feel about Ichigo's character development and the fact that the fucking Fullbringers are staying behind? I don't know. I think Kubo realizes that he fucked up with the Fullbringers, and while he brought them back just so that he could tie up loose ends, it's like, you motherfuckers are staying behind. No one gives a fuck about y'all. Just sit back. And your overall thoughts of the chapters, again, nothing big or whatever, but we're slowly getting into some big shit, and that's exciting. But that's all I have for this review. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you liked anything I had to say or enjoyed the video, drop me a like. I greatly appreciate it. And if you haven't subscribed, if you could do so as well, that'd be amazing. I'm ForneverWorld, and as always, people, have an awesome day.